first of all are the wheels. Next up will be the sway bar will be next up, and then we'll remove the exhaust, but I'll get lower for that. Big tip, always get some Ziploc bags and write on it where you remove the screws. Next up, sway bar. You have to remove the nuts and at the same time hold the bolt. Be aware to get a nut that is long enough so you don't damage it, as it is sadly on my nuts. So you have to be careful. And you do it on both sides. On the top ones, you don't need that. The lower bolts are 15 millimeters, which you have to hold in the back. And then the back one should be an 18 millimeter. But remember to use a long socket like this one. And we'll put these only momentarily because we'll put it back in place. It's just to remove the mufflers. Once you remove the nuts and bolts, you can take it and swing it down like this. It can hold on its own, it's fine. The rubber boots can be inspected at the same time. So, like I said, next up are the mufflers. You should have them clamped in and closed like on this side. On mine they were already loose. So they should be like this, and then there should be a clamp here. And then we'll remove these two screws, and then there should be nuts holding these on. I guess there is one missing here. I'll have to buy a new one, but these need to be loosened up. And then you can first remove the X/H pipe in my case, and then we can remove the muffler. Bolts on the H-pipe springs are 13 millimeters. The ones in front at the cat are 15 millimeters. Alright, so it's almost out. I think I'll do the rest by hand. Because once you've removed these two, you will now be able to take them out of back here and then remove it like this. Next up will be the mufflers. You'll just have to watch out with your diffuser, but all in all, when the H-pipe is gone and you've removed the sway bar, you should be able to just pull them out of the rubber mounts. If the rubber mounts are very tight, I can suggest you spray a bit of lubrication oil. And that's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. And then they come out like this. And now that the mufflers are gone as well, we will reinstall the sway bar. So lift it up like this, both sides, put them into the screws left and right, hold the screws so they're in place. Then you put in the top ones first. Do not do this with a electric or pneumatic wrench. Do it with hand first, otherwise you could cross thread and destroy your subframe. continue to the thousands of bolts which are underneath. So I'm gonna switch camera around. All right. For the coupler right there, you have to hold the middle part and then perfect. And then push towards the transmission with the upper one. Be aware, once again, there is gonna be brake fluid coming out. That's normal. Next up, we will have to unplug all of these connectors. So you unplug this one, feed it back through here. All right, that's out. You can see perfect, both these brake lines are out. This one you should not have to, because it's routed through the subframe. But next up, we can just feed. That's the parking brake. We'll feed this through, which means we'll remove this clip and the lower one. Let's do that quickly. So first, it's easier to unclip the lower one. There we go. This one unclipped, and now we can take that one out. Come on, get in there. Safe. Like this. There we go. One last clip. Bingo. So this can dangle like that. I'll do the same on the other side. God damn. Well, it's the same thing as on the other side. I just don't see the. Like that. Perfect. Just let them dangle. So next up, I've already removed this in the video. You need to remove all the lines connected to your transmission, which means there is one up top here. So press down on this clip. There we go. Bit of a rubber seal vacuum action going on there. All right. That looks good. Just to make sure you don't forget anything, there is clips in here holding the cables, and you'll have to remove them. Perfect. It's easiest with a clip remover. Just like that. Perfect. And then you feed it through to the front. Alright. There it goes. Now you have it hanging down like this. And you'll do the same thing on the other side. So it's two clips again. Same thing as before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Alright, that one's out. That's going in the video.
Yeah, like this is good. Perfect.
Well, it's gonna be an awful lot of work to get it back together.
Yeah.
Alright, next up, there's, like I said in the beginning, the giant bolts holding it to the frame, which are one on each corner, one here, in there, and the same on the other side. But you definitely need to have 2 transmission jacks. One should be situated underneath the transmission like this, should be underneath the subframe. Then you have to lower it down a tiny bit. You have to check, if you come here, there's an instruction on the angle you're allowed to go down, so you don't crack your dash panel with the motor because the engine tilts. And the reference point is the rear compartment tub, and your transmission, no, the differential, the top of the differential cannot get lower than the rear compartment tub. I think it's these side rails. That the top of this transmission cannot get lower than these side rails. So you don't have a lot of space, but if you've removed your mufflers, you should easily be able to work with even less than that. So we'll try to angle it as minimal as possible to be on the safe side, but we'll also have to remove the torque tube from the front here. We will now be situated here in the front. You will, if you have a C5 Corvette, you will have a access cover for your clutch. Since I have a C6, we don't have that, but the clutch will be changed as well. We will start removing these bolts. There's 3 at the bottom, and then there's 2 up top. They're a bit hard to reach. You'll see. Let me pull this back. This top one is extremely hard to reach. You can barely see it. You have to feel it out with your hand, sadly. Only way that goes. But these should be 13mm sockets. And you'll need this swivel adapter, just for the top ones at least, because it'll be very hard to get to them otherwise. Like this, that's how you put it in. And then you need another extension like this one. That's what you'll need. Be aware, if you just drove the car,
It's hot.
this will be warm to the touch, or even hot to the touch. Okay. Oh yes, you just need to loosen them in the beginning, and then you can just do the rest by hand. You will also see, if you look, there's alignment pins which help you to properly situate it when you remove it. There's 2 lines underneath the torque tube. Instead of removing the clip here, which we'll put right back in, you can simply, if you wait long enough and check, remove these. So there's these 2 clips. So once again, she removed it without me seeing it. She took a small flathead screwdriver and pried underneath, and there's your C-clip. Nice, amazing. So it's a 26mm, but since we don't have one here, I just pull on it.
It's the 26 and a 20.
Yes.
Or 22, I don't remember.
So next up, we'll be removing the lower 3 bolts of the torque tube. We removed all these screws. The one at the top right is a pure nightmare. There is a cable on top. It's the flat ribbon cable, if you've ever seen pictures of it. There's clips in which it lies. They're like this, and they're open here, so it's just slotted in. There it goes. Out here. It was a bit hard to film. There is a connector right there, which I removed, and then on, oof, that'll be hard to film. This bolt there is a clip which holds the cable onto this bolt, and there's the same bolt on the other side of the transmission. You remove the clips there, and then all the wiring should be taken care of. And now we'll finally be able to loosen up these 4 big bolts. Everything is taken care of. I put a jack underneath the transmission. Might be even cleverer to put it underneath the subframe, but I also put a jack underneath the engine, so we can just make sure this doesn't tilt too much, and then it's pretty much only just enough so I can reach out of the screws, and then we can pull it back towards us and hope the jack in the back holds. I'll reposition it forwards to the torque tube, and then we can pull everything back. Yeah. Okay, don't loosen it all the way. Okay, that one's out. Let's once again thread in a couple threads. Let's see whether it tilts or not. That one.
Yes.
Now
Well, we
one's a
put
bit
this
looser.
up for safety.
Yes, we switched it up because we figured we're not going to drop it any lower than the bolts themselves. These are very big nuts with an integrated washer. Alright, all the bolts are loosened. We left the other 4 in here. We'll slowly have to loosen this one up. It's all the way tight. You want to be very gentle with that. How far are we on the screws?
Almost there. Oh,
Nice. I like seeing that. Yeah, okay. The wires are good.
okay. We're out.
It's this line here. It's connected to the torque tube. Alright everybody, so we had to call it a night yesterday because we couldn't get to move everything and we didn't know why, so we went home to reflect, and I realized I did remove the center console, but I did not remove the shifter, which means this was hitting here, so that needs to be removed, and we might have to remove even the shifter mounting screws, which is 2 big bolts. Sadly the lighting here is pretty bad, and then there's one on the shifter cable if you have a manual like me. Everybody in the forum says it's a T45. This one here is a T45 and it does not fit. It's minuscule amount too big, so it must be some Freedom unit size. And these bolts, they're hex bolts. They seem to be a little bigger than 9mm, and they're not quite a 10mm, but you can, if you're careful like me, you can get a 10mm to stick or grab it, and that's what I'm doing now. But be super careful. And then once again, there's 4 screws here, or 4 of these hex bolts, and yeah, I'll remove these. We should be able to, boom, just lift this up. Alright, well, sadly there was no way I would have been possible to film this, but this clutch line, which is right underneath the brake booster right there, you have to get a screwdriver, a flathead, underneath this and then pry up. This is closed normally, and then you can pull it backwards to open the line or like get it removed. And if you're unlucky like me, this clip will be on the bottom, so it's going to be even harder. So I resituate it to the top, so the next time if I ever have to do this, it's going to be much easier to release. But beware, this is going to drip again. And now the load should be taken off of this line, I hope at least. But
Oh no, you
there's
could
this
just
bolt.
unplug it. I didn't know, you could just pull it
Pull what?
from we could have just pulled it.
Huh? Damn, you're right once again. I'm so impressed.
Okay. Here you go.
I'm impressed. What you will have to look out, why you need to be here on the torque tube, is these fuel lines. You see that black
yes.
thing? That's the shifter. You cannot have them touch on these fuel lines.
Okay.
You don't want to rupture them. That's going to be a nightmare. That's why it's best to remove the shifter completely, but sadly it's not T45. So we'll somehow have to,
Didn't you?
I tried. Look, when we remove it, try to push it this way, okay? Hold it away from these lines because there's nothing here.
Okay.
You can push it onto this side as you want.
Who was right?
Okay, now that we've removed hopefully everything there is, we lowered it already yesterday. So we will now lower it enough so all the bolts can go out. Okay, so we were actually able to move everything back. As you can see, it's now further out. The wiring harness is hanging down and it's removed from here. We needed 4 other guys to help us because it was so heavy, or so hard to remove. So that's finally taken care of. I also, big pro tip, I put the engine underneath a hoist, and it seems like that was very important because now it's fully loaded.
On it. Yeah.
So make sure to do that so you do not crack your firewall, which I see we luckily still have quite a bit of space here. Actually quite a bit is a bit over. It's 1 finger I have left. So next up we have unscrewed the transmission from the subframe. The 4 bolts which are holding it.
Now we need to remove
And now
this
we remove
and
the drive
this,
shafts.
so we can separate the two.
Exactly, and it's quite easy. You literally pry.
It worked for last
It
time.
worked in the beginning.
Okay, good. That's it. How far do they go? How do you get them to move towards here? Oh, here you go.
Nice. The drive shafts have now been removed from the diff on both sides. All the wiring is off, but let me double check that. Yeah, everything's removed. I can see right through. So we removed the subframe, left it intact, and next up will be the transmission just lowering down. And then we're finally done. Geez, this...